Welcome to the March edition of the Open Space Greenways Committee. Thank you for coming tonight. And if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think all the members have received copies of the minutes of the February meeting. A motion that they be approved as submitted.
Second.
Are there any revisions, changes, additions, deletions to the agenda as submitted tonight? Okay. Pardon me? The agendas, copies of the agendas are right on the table. Right over here. No, on the table in the back. Anybody in the audience that does not have an agenda, they are always on the back table when they come in. All right, if being no revision to the agenda, we will proceed. The township, Carl, could you give us a
Thank you.
update on the township activities and so forth?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. Number one, your name was submitted as a recommendation for the chair of this commission for the next coming year. That is April 1, 2020 through March 31, 2021. Regarding the Ferry Road Trail connection, Cliff and I did walk the trail with Bert and found that there is in some need of some issues with drainage. We're hoping that we can have the township's engineer come out. I've made arrangements with manager Dale Ream to have Sohio come out and give us some thoughts about drainage. That is approximately 700 feet of the trail before we are free of what appears to be free-flowing water when there is snow melt and rain from the adjoining properties. Second trail is the Meridian Trail. I had the pleasure of walking that trail with Bill Stevenson approximately 2 weeks ago. Wanted to see what we could do because I've been hearing that there was junk back there. I invite everyone, when we can do it again, Bill, when the weather gets a little better, we can go back there and you can show everybody the highlights because there were no lowlights. That trail is in exceptionally good condition. It is wonderful. It is a great addition to what we've been doing. The problem is that there is, or are two areas not far from the trail that have been the basis of, it appears to be considerable junk dumping. Probably 10 to 12 tires we found out there. Cliff, as an old employee of Chrysler, you'd be pleased to know that there was a Chrysler Marine engine that appears to be in good condition out there. We also have what is left of, appears to be a truck at the west end of the trail. Again, Cliff, that has suspiciously blue Chrysler on it. I don't know what was going on, but we have, in addition to that, a washer. We have a lot of just plain metal junk that is on the very east end, probably about 150 feet from the sign that introduces it as Open Space Greenways. I contacted the Boy Scouts through Brian McGran. Brian is somebody that has been very, very active with the Scouts for a long time. We walked back there. We also walked the entire trail. We saw the old vehicle pickup truck that was there. Going to have to make some special efforts for that because of how deep it's buried in the mud. But we also have an ability, I'm hoping, to have the Boy Scouts come in and help with the cleanup on the far east side. Now, good news travels fast, bad news travels faster, because when I was speaking with another gentleman that lives on Rucker, he says, hey, while you're there, take a look at the property that is north of the east end of Rucker. And because we have another vehicle out there, we have tires and we have more debris. So, Ms. Stevenson, to get back to your point, I know what causes people to think that that's a good thing to do. But that's two areas we've identified. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping those are the only ones. And I'm also hoping in the spring when we have a little bit of good weather, the Boy Scouts can make that part of the island cleanup. If for some reason they can't, we're going to go to Plan B, which is to look for some volunteers to go back there and help me move that. Remove it and set it aside so that our own DPS can then haul it away and be done with it. But these are eyesores. They are just incredible acts of, I think selfishness is the only way to describe it, because there is no reason to leave stuff like that. And it took a lot of effort to get it in there. So while we've got part of a boat on the east side and a vehicle on the north side of the property, we can and will remove those. And that's going to happen. That will happen this year. And that concludes my report.
Just before we proceed, I just want to make clear that we will take whatever means are necessary to clean that mess up. I am very, I haven't seen it, but I am just absolutely flabbergasted, so to speak, that people would do that. It's going to cost us a lot of money to clean that area up. And just be aware that any of those people that might be responsible for that area has, you have cost the township a lot of money. It's very irresponsible, and I think maybe what we can do after we get it cleaned up, whatever it takes, that we notify the police to kind of monitor that area as best they can to see that that doesn't happen again. And I think possibly, Pam, if you could, Carl, if you would maybe approve it, is if you could put an article in the next edition of the not the EEL camera, I'm sorry, the Grand, to say what we found and what it does and what it's going to cost the township.
And I think they need to be reminded to dump the junk is the best place to get rid of it, rather than in the open space, because that was the whole idea, is to provide a safe and the right place to dump their junk.
Carl, if you have no objections, I think we should have an article in the Grand about the junk that's been found back there.
I would very, very much welcome that. Pam, I took some pictures. I don't know if you have an ability to do that, but
Good.
I want to indicate that the recent purchase open space is where only a part of this material was. That was generally the vehicle that was buried, and it looks to be sitting there for probably 2 decades, maybe 3, if not longer. But I do want to say that when we first started looking at extending a trail from Park Lane into the North Woods, a number of citizens came forward and said, hey, we want to talk to you about that. I would stand here today and recognize Bill Stevenson as a person who has made this a real collaborative effort. I learned more about the trail and the property in the new 30 acres than I would have if I'd walked back there for a couple of days. And I think the collaborative effort with the community, with the neighbors, has really, really been instrumental. I received text messages from Mrs. Stevenson saying, hey, how can people do this? How can this happen? Went back there, looked at it, and that was on some of the open space that was purchased a couple of decades ago. So our efforts are to put a good public use to it and to clean it up, and this would not have happened without Bill particularly, and without the support of his wife. And I just want to thank both of you.
Thank you, Bill. And rest assured, we'll put this on a top priority, get that mess cleaned up once and for all. In fact, what we probably should do is note, and part of your article, Pam, is make sure that
that area is going to be under surveillance in terms of any trash that's found, and if we're lucky enough to find the people who are responsible for that travesty, they will be held accountable. And again, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Okay, Kyle, are you? Yeah, you're busy there. Okay. Would you give us a little update on the recreation activities?
Yes, you got it. Sorry, this is my son. This is part of why I haven't been able to come to some of the meetings, but I wanted to come to this meeting because I felt like it was an important one. Lots happening on the Recreation Commission meeting. It just happened last Thursday. We submitted a budget. One of the biggest things in the budget that was important was updating the marina. The water level was too high last year, and a lot of boats basically weren't able to get to their docks. But then on top of that, there's an opportunity with the tennis center recreation. It looks like we'll be taking over if all goes well with the township meeting, the next board meeting, and turning that possibly into a community center. So I think that's really exciting, and that's moving forward. So those are the two big recreation items that are moving forward that I wanted to let you all know about. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Also, depending on how this thing goes with this trash issue that we discovered in Meridian, we might ask maybe for some of your members to give us a hand in removing it, but we'll let you know the details once we get our plan of action together as to how we're going to eliminate that trash.
Okay, sounds good.
Pam, anything new about the beautification activities?
Well, we're trying to connect with the Downtown Development Authority because I tried the garden club and they said that they had enough projects to handle. And I've talked to Andrea Secaucus about connecting with the DDA and maybe the township gardeners so that we can offer our advice on plantings and have the beautification committee, which is down to only 3 members, connect with them. But I haven't heard back from her. And we have an event coming up not until April. On April 8th is a joint meeting of Keep Michigan Beautiful and the Beautification Council of Southeastern Michigan. It's going to be up in Warren, and it's called Celebrate Spring. And it's to get everybody excited about planting and caring for the community and keeping it clean and well cared for. And that's open to any interested people that want to go and celebrate spring, which is hopefully just a month away.
It may be here.
And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Pam. The next item is the Grosssville Schools. Emma?
So, just to follow up from last month, we're in contact with the recycling companies from the number we had received from you guys. And so we're working on getting plastic recycling at Park Lane and Meridian schools. And with regards to the trail, there was an announcement placed in the morning announcements just telling people that it will be more closely monitored. So if that helps you guys, I just wanted to let you know that. So, and I think that's about all we have for this month.
Thank you very much, Emma. Don't be surprised if Dan asks for your help on the dump the junk thing as far as schools are concerned.
Already on my list.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dan, we have 2 items for you. We have the update on the BPAC, and of course, further on down on the agenda, we have the dump the junk. So, if you could talk to us about what's happening.
One of the things with the BPAC I'd like to talk about is we started passing out bracelets for the students waiting for the buses in the morning. Well, as we head to daylight savings time starting next week, we still have some of the bracelets available. They're at the Public Service Center. We also have some bike lights. You can stop in there and pick up one of those. Let's be safe out there. We're also got the upcoming bike and walk to school day. Walk to school, I believe, is in May. It's either the walk or the bike. That's coming up, and we'll have a rain delay for you at the next BPAC meeting. Other than that, that's about all I got with BPAC right now.
Thank you very much, Dan. Appreciate it. John, the welcome letters?
13 letters to newcomers went in the mail this past month, and roughly the same number will go out this month.
Thank you. Now, if anybody from the audience has any comments, this part of the agenda is for you, so if there's anybody that would like to make a comment, yes, sir, if you would come up and give your name and your address and state your concern.
But I will state it. Thank you very much. Appreciate a few minutes here. Your kind indulgence. I promise to stay mostly on point, but I think a little context is important so we all know why I'm up here. My name is Don Matz. I live on Halcyon Court. If you've ever been on Halcyon Court, at the very end of the court is a common driveway. That's a key word there, driveway, and two houses that we share that. The Lees are on the left and I'm on the right. And so we are probably at the corner of the property that the Open Space Commission just acquired here a little bit ago. For context, I am here because I like to know who my neighbors are. Prior to the Open Space Commission being the owners, it was privately held. Walkers, Joneses, a few others were the property owners, then it became the part of the Nature and Land Conservancy, so I got to know those folks. We had some trees coming down and things of that nature, so now here we are. So now I want to say hello to you folks, let you know who I am and what's at that corner of the road. One of the concerns that I have, or observation is a better word, for better or worse, and sometimes it goes both ways, a lot of folks for some reason think that they have the ability to access that property through Halcyon Court. The idea of private property seems to be a foreign concept when it's not their yard. So I would be curious and will keep my ears open and offer suggestion and would like to bring to your attention the idea that how you talk about a trail, how you have lines of demarcation, where you think things might be going. There's definitely a two-way street there that needs to be, I think, maintained. For example, if you were to think of signage, it's not just signage to me that is on the public side, but maybe there has to be signage that's on your property facing that direction to acknowledge the fact that they're going to be encroaching upon private property if they were to go further. You might say, well, what's going on here? I've had cars pull all the way up on the driveway, park, and have families get out to want to access. I've had troops of people coming in and coming out while I'm having gatherings. My dogs go nuts, et cetera, et cetera. And I try to be polite, as these fine folks discovered. And my usual question is, how can I help you? You'd be stunned with literally, how can I help you, going unanswered. I try to be a little more polite at that point, but a little more firm and say, you know, you're on private property. Again, this is just neighbors respectful of each other, in my opinion. And so that's the purpose of me being up here, is to introduce myself, let you know that at least in my little corner of the world, a little slice of heaven, if you will, I think there's room for improvement. Despite my degree coming from that school down south, I've been on this island for 19 years, so I think I qualify as having established roots here. And so that gives me enough legitimacy to come before this board and say, please keep us in mind as you are doing the good work that you're doing. Now, maybe I may have said some things that weren't quite clear, so if you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them. Yes, ma'am.
Would you think a sort of an attractive fence or a little gate there saying private property?
Picture worth 1,000 words. I think words are much more appropriate. When you think about it, there's quite a bit of boundary there. Those that have walked that area, it's several yards. It's not just myself and the Lees. Then there's another home, a couple over that are, I don't even know their names, but they're nice folks down there. And
You have the Dortons, Rhonda and Larry Dorton, that are practically across the street from
right,
you,
but
and George and June Yesman.
they don't border on the open space property. There are other people that do border on the open space property further south.
Then you have George and June Yesman, who I think are your neighbors to the east.
Yes, yes. I'm more concerned about, and those are all fine folks, but I'm more concerned about those that directly abut the open space property, just like our friends over here have a direct abutment to the property along Manchester and all those courts and roads that go off that way. There are several homes, and then you get further south, and then it's a much larger, wider area. For a bit of context, I appreciate the good work you've done. I've adopted that stretch. Every spring I get a barrel of trash out of that area. I don't go in but about 20 feet. I do apologize for not going after engine blocks. I'm not that strong. But that's where it's at. So to in a very roundabout way to answer your question, too big of an area for a fence. Now, a little bit of decorative fence with a sign, sure, I'm open to any ideas there, and I want to help out. But like I said, it's not just one direction. I think it's got to be a two-directional idea, and maybe the literature that you guys put out and publish would emphasize that this is private property and the trail goes that way.
What I would propose to consider, and again, I'd like to collaborate with the neighbors.
That's why I'm here.
When I walk the trail, when Bill and I walk the trail, there were several neighbors that have effectuated pavers or paths or stones that allow them to access the trail.
That's an issue you folks are going to have to address, because I will be the first to acknowledge that when it was private property, there were those that, for lack of a better term, probably took advantage of that fact.
Right.
Not as a new sheriff in town, fair enough.
Well, I think what, to answer your question, the options that we have, and one of the things that Bill Stevenson has done is thrown out the possibility of bringing in an expert from University of Michigan Dearborn who can give us some guidance on where the placement of trails should be. I don't believe, my personal opinion, that we should have a trail that runs right along the back of your property. I like to see that the people using the trail are back so as to respect your privacy. We've attempted to do that with the connector on the Tittle property on the Ferry
Understand.
Road Trail. And once you put down a trail that makes sense, I think you're going to have a better use of the property, and they're not going to go traipsing through your yard.
I'll agree with
except
that.
for those few people that are lost and finally find civilization in your backyard.
That's okay. Ignorance is bliss. I've been there. I'm not worried about that.
But I would like to propose that we should look at signage indicating that this is private property. And while there is an access from East River, it shouldn't be through your property or Halcyon Court and the other homes there. There is a sign that identifies open space and purchase, and
It's
that's on
further
East
down,
River,
yeah.
a couple hundred yards
Yep.
South of where you are. So what I would like to see is have somebody come in and help us with the placement of a trail, have that trail back, because we have a lot of land we can work with. A lot of wetlands, lands,
It's
not
kind of soggy
wetlands.
back there, unless you guys have been back there lately. It's usually okey-finoky. August
We
it's
were
dry,
back
that's
there.
about it.
and We were back there, Mr. Metz, and I was very impressed with the amount of water that is running back there. But I do think that the placement of a trail may help you with that, with an access on East River not far from that sign, and with the idea that if we can do some low-impact signs that identify it as private property, I think we'll be fine.
I think everyone will be amicable. There was one other, I'm sorry, follow-up. Yes, ma'am.
Another thought I had was the trail from the playscape. The police don't want us to go all the way up to their property. So what we did is we made a loop around a tree so the trail doesn't go any farther than that loop. And if that could be far enough away from your property, they would realize the trail doesn't go through your property, it goes back the way they came.
Oh, I'm sure that idea has a lot of merit, would probably work, but I would still think at that point in time some signage would be necessary, because we do have some very intrepid explorers on this island that like to show off their prowess with their Merrill hiking boots once in a great while. Does that make sense?
You also have a lot of people that are looking for deer shed out there.
Yes,
looking for
they
the
love
antlers.
it. They love it all the time, all the time. There was another question, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Comment. I think what we have to do, we have to take a look at that whole area in terms of two things. In terms of if we want to put in a trail extension, it has to be in an area where it respects the privacy of all residents. And secondly, that we have, if it takes signage to prevent people from trespassing on private property, that has to be done. So our objective here, and maybe I'm not getting specific enough, but we have to design a trail and signage that respects the privacy of all residents in that general area.
You're here.
Okay?
No, I'm not arguing. I'm asking, actually. Sorry.
that's what we
Gotta
will
be
do.
blunt. You know, speak in
That's-
real time.
That's what we will do.
Is there anything else I could answer?
No, I think.
Very
I
much
think that-
appreciate your time,
Now, one
folks.
of the things that we will do is when we get the area, in other words, the layout of the trail finalized, we'd like to do it with, and we'd like to have you come back, let's review it, make sure it makes sense. If there's any additions or changes that would be helpful, we'll be willing to do that.
My entire career, I've been known for being very shy, sir, so you'll have a hard time getting an opinion out of me, but I'll do my best.
Mr. Metz, you and I first met probably about 6 months ago at the Roundhouse. I remember bumping into you. You
I was
looked,
shy then too, sir.
you were very shy, and we were talking about your career and where your project was in that little school down south of us. What I would like would be a business card. I would propose to work with you as we have with the neighbors on the north side. So if
Brought
you could
plenty
do
of
that.
them.
I'd appreciate that, and then we can work on when we have something more definitive in the spring.
I'll hand them out when the meeting's over, okay? Not to
Thank you,
interrupt
sir.
things.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, thank you for
Thank you
coming
very
out.
much.
All right, the next item is every year we have a dump the junk program, and it's going to be held in May of this year. So, Dan, if you could regale us with the plans that are in place for this annual event. And I think just one comment that was made, the reason that we started this program initially was to prevent the very thing that we find in that area of the trail, is to prevent people from dumping their junk into the open space. That was what prompted the institution of the Dump the Junk program. So with that, Dan?
Thank you. Dump Your Junk. It's going to be held rain or shine on May 16 at the DPS yard from 9 to 4 p.m. And what we're going to do is we are not going to accept any mattresses, pieces of broken furniture, toilets, electronics, railroad ties, or hazardous waste. Hazardous waste deals with chemicals, paints, etc. Now, those that can prove that they live in one of the areas here on the island that does not have regular priority trash pickup, I will be at the gate and I will look at your driver's license to prove that you are a resident only. And these items we will accept are the mattresses and broken furniture. No hazardous waste will be accepted at all. I am looking for volunteers from the high school, the Boy Scouts, and any residents that want to come out and help us. This is for all of us here on the island. Margie at the township office has my email. I'll give it to you now in case you have a pencil. It's DANNO.7@comcast.net. I look forward to working with all the residents and some of the groups here on the island. This is for all of us. Last year was a outstanding success, and we hope to even do better this year. It'll eliminate some of this dumping that's going on in our open spaces. Anybody have any questions? I've got a flyer here, and there's some down in the township office that'll list all the things that we're going to take and the times. This flyer was put together by Priority Waste, Donna Deppa, and myself, and I hope it's very informative. And come on out and enjoy the fun. There's some beautiful treasures out there.
Could you repeat your email?
Sure. My email is DANNO.7@comcast.net.
Gotcha.
If anybody has any questions, Margie has it at the township office also.
Emma, if you can, make sure that you get the word out
Okay.
at the school. We'd love to see some of the students
They get
help us
service,
out.
they get service hours for
Okay.
this, and you're getting 2 months plus notice, where last year, I apologize that we only had a couple weeks when I said I would take over this program. And Kyle, yes, your son can come out and help too. Seriously, I've got honor student from another neighboring city that came out last year. He was only gonna be here for a few hours, he spent the whole day. So, and I'm also working on having some of the stuff that I brought for those that help out last year.
Very
All right.
good.
Any questions?
No, I think
Anybody
that's
from
it.
the audience?
And again, get the word back to Dan with the, as far as what times. In other words, you don't
We'll
have to
set
be
that up.
there all day.
You don't have to be there all day.
You know, maybe an hour or 2 hours. And then you'll be instructed as to what to look out for and so on and so
It's a
forth.
fun time.
Look forward to
I'll
having
put
you.
something in the announcements.
Thank you, Emma.
How do we volunteer?
Get a hold of me.
On your email?
Yep, on my email, and I'm also going to be sending out a notice to all the people that volunteered last year, and I will be contacting the various businesses on the island here who donated some little goodies for us for the day to keep us
That
well
was a
refreshed
treat.
and some lunch. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Just a little update on some signage. We have two issues that we're being confronted with as far as signs is concerned. The open space sign on GROSSE Parkway, about halfway down on the north side, has been totally destroyed. A tree fell on it and didn't help it out at all. So a new sign is being constructed as we speak, and I would assume it should be ready for installation within the next month or so. It's kind of a long process. The company that makes the sign, the fellows are on vacation now, so they're not doing anything, but come springtime, that sign will be installed, a new replacement sign. The other issue, then this is where I need thoughts from each one of the committee members. The open space trail that's under construction on Ferry Road, I'd like to have a nice entrance. We have an entrance for the trails on all the trails on GROSSE, the Meridian Trail, and the trail at the north end of the island. If you feel that that sign is sufficient, I can have that constructed. If you feel that you'd like to have a more elaborate sign at that at the south end, where the trail will exit onto Ferry Road, I'd welcome your input. So give me your thoughts on it. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll just have another sign constructed, which will be the same as the other signs that are throughout the whole area.
Cliff, is the ferry trail, this is what it's going to look like?
Yes.
Okay, so this is accurate and up to date.
Yes.
Good.
So that's. Any other comments as far as signage is concerned? Any other areas that maybe we have missed?
I don't know if you want to call it signage. I would think it could be part of the signage, Cliff. I had the opportunity to go back through a couple years worth of meetings, township meetings, and former trustee to the BPAC at one of our meetings, Tom Malvesto, mentioned that let's do something with those ugly blue barrels along the bike path on Meridian. And I was going to speak to Emma after the meeting, but I think we should make it public. I'd like to make a proposal that we bring the high school. Oh, I'm sorry. I'd like to bring a proposal that we do something with those ugly blue barrels and maybe get the high school and maybe even the middle school involved and let them come out and decorate those barrels, and then everybody on a committee can vote on who's got the best one and maybe give them a little lunch or something like that at one of the island restaurants.
Where are the blue barrels
They're
again?
along the bike path along Meridian. You'll see them, they're trash barrels.
Yeah.
I believe there's even one around Macomb.
Color be better?
Oh, well, we were thinking decorate them, make them exciting, something vibrant instead of an ugly blue.
Okay.
I mean, I love blue, don't get me wrong, but I was just thinking, after seeing Tom brought it up and it never went anywhere, it died. And I thought, what a great idea, get the students involved and have a little, camaraderie thing, see who could do the best with the teams, What do you think?
I think it would be a good idea. I would have to somehow find a way to organize it, but I would be interested.
I mean, it's something that I saw in some of the recordings, and Tom brought it up, and it just died. And I thought, I hate looking at those ugly things when I ride my bike. Yes.
Oh, they're ugly because the beautification committee
Oops.
got those, and that was the only barrel available.
I'm sorry. I don't mean this. Not.
But you're right. They could be
Would it be vibrant to
beautified.
have something, and they could say, "Hey, we decorated that one," or "This group did this one."
I think
They
it would
used
be
to be
cool to have
green.
like a student touch on the community as a whole. I think that would be something very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, let's let the students
You know how
decide.
they do the rock out on East
Yeah.
River? I was thinking something similar like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Could you do this? Talk to your friends in the schools,
Okay.
and your students, and if there's any ideas that they have or that you may have, let's bring them forward at the next meeting,
Okay.
put it on the agenda, and if we need to spend a little bit of a few dollars to decorate them, or if they want to decorate them, that's fine.
Okay.
We
will
want
look
them to
into that.
decorate them. We want them to decorate them, get them involved.
Okay, good idea.
Well, thank Tom. He brought it up, and I'm just relaying a message that I thought was something different.
All right, the first action item, I think we've talked about this, and that's the Meridian Trail. Carl, is there anything more that you would like to talk about? I think we've discussed it quite length. What we need to do is really have a good plan where we have the trail properly designed and constructed so that it respects all parties concerned.
Well, not only all parties, all neighbors, and the users of the trail, but also the fact that when we have a trail that is running through areas that have water running periodically, that means the wood chips are being soaked in water. They're going to rot. They're going to be washed away. And what we want to do is to build a trail that is going to be there requiring low maintenance. And as much as I like TNT, I'd like to see us build our trails in areas that are a little bit elevated, take advantage of the natural elevation of the property so that we can then have trails that don't require a lot of maintenance every 2 or 3 years. That's the goal. When I spoke with Dale Ream, he understands that, and we have asked Ohio to contact us so he can come out. If it means that we have to redirect the trail, I don't see that as a problem with the amount of property that we have there. If we place it with perhaps some elevation as a result of stone or even some clay and create drainage paths there for the water to drain off away from the trail, that may help, but the goal is to keep the maintenance as low as possible.
My opinion, I think that's confronting us right now, is getting our 2 trails constructed, and the issue on the Meridian Trail resolved. Okay, is there any other discussion items? And I'm going to start down at the left-hand side this time. Pam, any other comments?
I have no further comment.
Nor I.
I think I said enough tonight.
No
Emma?
further comment.
Carl?
I just want to thank the neighbors that are taking the time to come out here, not just tonight, but with prior meetings as well. Mr. Metz, you're welcome to come anytime. It is a direct impact on you on what we do. And again, feel free to step in, and if you have ideas, I have learned a lot by walking with Bill and talking with Bill. I believe that the neighbors that are out there every day or every week have a lot to offer. We see it from a different perspective. I'm not out there every season. I have other trails that I walk just out of habit and proximity to my house. But I welcome, and I think we all welcome the opportunity to have people come out and show us a better way to do things. This is our community. There's 10,400 of us here. It's great to make it a better place, and if we can do that by making the trail a usable space for everyone and a comfortable place, including the neighbors. I'm having a great time walking with Bill, and I've learned a lot about that. And I would just like to encourage other people out there that have open space next to them or trails or have ideas, come on down to the meetings. This is a great way to make our community a better place, and the information you provide is really, really necessary. And thank you again for coming out.
Thank you.
If there's any other items that we want to talk about, one final thing I just want to, I want to make, there's two things and that, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm repeating myself, forgive me for that. The two trails in question here, the Ferry Trail, we have to get completed. I think we're going to get Sahayo Debak and his people in there and see what we can do about putting a good trail in there, one that's going to be robust and in other words, it doesn't require a lot of maintenance. And what I want to do with the Meridian Trail is I want to get a trail design that respects the area of all the residents and get a good, firm plan of action to get rid of that junk that's back there. From what you're telling me, it's not going to take just 2 men in a truck to do it. We're going to have to, it looks like there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done to take care, in other words, drag these vehicles out of where they're at, you know, and get rid of them. But we have to have a plan of action to do that. Are there any other comments? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.